She is the fantasy of an entire decade, a face that moved faster than her name, until she was the poster, the scandal, the obsession. Her lifestyle made headlines, her marriages unraveled into circus acts, and her body was consumed by the press, exposed to millions, and at its worst, literally stolen from her. The bombshell Pamela Anderson is a billion-dollar franchise, but the real Pam kept coming back when the world had already written her off. Icon, scandal, survivor. So which one is the real Pamela Anderson? And how did a small-town girl from Canada become the most photographed woman on Earth? In telling it, we realized something else, that behind the posters and the headlines, Pamela Anderson is always far more than the world ever gave her credit for. She grew up in Ladysmith, a logging town in British Columbia. Population small, dreams even smaller. Pam played volleyball, worked as a fitness instructor, and never once imagined she'd end up on the walls of teenage bedrooms across the world. 1989, Canadian Football League. The stadium jumbotron scanned the crowd and landed on her face. That moment didn't just change her night, it rewrote her life. She was just wearing a Labatt's beer t-shirt. Her friends nudged her, laughing, and in that instant, the stadium exploded.
I was at a BC Lions game, and I was there, and I had a t-shirt on that said Labatt's Beer, and we got free tickets to the game, so my friends pushed me up, and they just had me going like this all night.
By the next morning, phones were ringing, commercials, billboards. Her smile was everywhere, long before the world even knew her name.
Yeah, can you do a commercial? Can you do a poster? Then the gym I was working at a tanning salon. I started doing their advertisements.
First, she thought it was a joke. When Playboy called, Pam hesitated. Becoming a symbol was never her plan. She was shy, careful, still adjusting to the spotlight.
People came up to me in Vancouver and asked me to pose for Playboy a few times, and I said no. I was kind of shocked. And I picked up the phone and I said, hi, this is Marilyn Grabowski from Playboy. Do you want to come and shoot a cover? Come to Los Angeles. I said, okay. And she said, if we like the cover, we'll use it. And I said, well, call me when it's for real. I hung up the phone. And the phone rang immediately after and said, it's for real, we guarantee you the cover. Well, I called my mother and she said she'd do it.
But she also knew what the offer meant. Visibility, opportunity, a platform she might never get again, and a label she might never shake off. She said yes. And so, Playboy didn't just feature Pamela. They created her. From lighting to styling, every detail was curated. Until the small-town girl became the blonde bombshell, the kind of icon that sold magazines by the millions. She was no longer just Pam from Ladysmith. She was the fantasy, a role the world expected her to play forever. And that first cover was only the beginning. October 1989, her first Playboy cover hit the stands. It sold out instantly. And suddenly, the girl in the beer shirt was the woman everyone was talking about. Pam wanted more than covers. She chased auditions, small TV parts, quick walk-ons, anything.
Buddy, Charles can't play favorites. He has to grade us totally on our intelligence.
Yes. Thank you.
All right, more power. Thank you, Lisa. Now there's raw power!
Her break came with Home Improvement, America's #1 sitcom. As the Tool Time girl, she proved she wasn't just looks. She had timing, presence, a spark that stuck.
Did you see this message? Someone named George Foreman called and he said, I'd be happy to do it.
Yes, thank you, Lisa.
Suddenly, Hollywood paid attention. Directors who once ignored her started calling. And then, Baywatch, 1992. Producers had seen her on Home Improvement and knew she had exactly what they needed.
I lucked out because now Baywatch is so popular and so successful all over the world. I think I made the right choice, but Home Improvement, I'd love to come back and do another episode.
When Pam slipped into the red swimsuit and became CJ Parker, Baywatch became television history. The show aired in 142 countries. Guinness called it the most-watched TV series on the planet. Over 1 billion people tuned in, and Pamela became its breakout star. For 5 seasons, she defined Baywatch.
I realized that Baywatch was like an international hit when I would travel to London and there was so many cameras and people falling over backwards, and I remember thinking, how do they even know that we're here? Like, it felt so surreal, but it was even more popular other places.
But fame that big never comes quietly. By 1995, Pam was already 3 seasons deep into Baywatch, and every day felt like a marathon. She filmed long 12-hour days on set, then still found time to hit the gym to stay camera ready. In between, she squeezed in scripts for films like Raw Justice and Baywatch, Forbidden Paradise, while adding more magazine shoots, including yet another Playboy cover. Over the years, she would appear on more Playboy covers than any other model in history, holding the record with 14 in total. Off-screen, life moved just as fast. It fit the tabloid image, the playmate, and the rock star. Pam drifted into the rock scene, briefly engaged to Bret Michaels of Poison. November 1995. Pam met Tommy Lee. They were instantly love-struck. 4 days later, they married, barefoot on the beach, wild, impulsive, and madly in love. The marriage lasted 3 years. They were the rock and roll soap opera of the 90s, where chaos turned into a couple. They were loud, magnetic, impossible to ignore. They were the headlines. And yet, behind the noise, they tried to build something real. Quickly pregnant, Brandon was born in 1996, Dylan in 1997. A family born in the middle of the circus. Pam kept working through it all, shooting Baywatch, posing for Playboy, even filming Barbed Wire while pregnant, followed soon after by the launch of her action series VIP. But the moment that defined them wasn't on a set or a stage. It was in their home. A private honeymoon tape, meant for no one but them, was stolen, copied, sold, and suddenly everywhere. She hadn't even been warned. Of course she hadn't agreed. Her boundaries so carefully drawn had been crossed without her consent. She was exposed, digitally, globally, on a scale no woman had faced before.
I blocked that stolen tape out of my life in order to survive. And now that it's all coming up again, I feel sick.
For Tommy, it was almost a badge, a scandal that fit the image of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. For Pam, it destroyed how the world saw her. Everyone wanted to see it. Whether out of lust or simple curiosity, the tape became a spectacle no one could ignore. Copies kept circulating. Intimacy turned into currency. The tape was said to have made more than $70 million. Pam never saw a cent.
I mean, it wasn't a positive thing. It definitely took its toll on the relationship. It took its toll on my career, and people are still capitalizing off that. That was the shocking part. I remember seeing this.
Decades later, the story was recycled into a glossy miniseries. No one asked her permission. She refused to watch it, because even now it still hurts too much. While continuing to work, raising 2 toddlers, and dealing with a jealous husband, things got worse. The chaos at home sometimes turned violent. It got messy. Later, Pam would learn that Tommy had been taking steroids, fueling his aggression, feeding his jealousy. The fights weren't just chaos, they were chemical. And still, she tried to hold the family together. More than once, she considered divorce, because for all the damage, Tommy Lee was also the love of her life. It ended with Pamela calling 911, fearing for her life, threatened by him. Tommy Lee was arrested and sentenced to 6 months in prison for assault. While the marriage was breaking apart, she was already on set. In 1998, VIP premiered, a glossy, over-the-top action comedy that mocked the very image she'd been boxed into. She wasn't just the star, she was shaping stories, calling shots, steering the brand. She kept working, cameos, sketch bits, late-night slots, acknowledging the past without letting it define her.
It's a good schedule, though. I love it. I can bring my kids to work. Brandon's 2 and Dylan's 6 months, and they're so close in age. And when I go home at night really late, I pick them up out of bed and I bring them into bed with me, and we sleep together, and then we wake up, and so I get to spend time with them.
Off-screen, she found a voice for causes. The environment, animal rights, anti-fur. The same body once monetized now stood as a protest sign. Her work shifted. Less spectacle, more motherhood. Photo shoots and guest roles nudged her image further away from the dumb blonde label.
I like proving people wrong.
So when the chance came to face the world again, she took it, ready to prove there was more. And challenge herself. April 2022. Pamela walked onto a Broadway stage as Roxy Hart in Chicago. Night after night, critics who once dismissed her now stood to applaud. The New York Times called her performance earnest, endearing, and credible. Then came her memoir and a raw Netflix documentary, produced by her son. Her voice on her own terms.
I'm a writer. I've written ever since I was little, journaling and poetry. And so it was really important to me to write my book myself. And that was the battle I was having with agents and publishers that, oh, no, you really can't write a book. I said, no, I can. I know I can. Just give me a shot.
Just Pam, telling the story the tabloids never could. And she wasn't finished. In 2023, she starred in The Last Showgirl, a role that earned her a Golden Globe nomination and silenced anyone who still doubted her. At the moment, she has 4 films in the making, with The Naked Gun just released in theaters.
Over here, Lieutenant. I think someone murdered my brother.
Please, take a chair.
Thank you.
So what do you think? After decades of being dismissed as a pinup, has Pamela Anderson finally proven herself as a serious artist? Drop your thoughts in the comments.